I don't know anybody who's transmuting primal fire to earth. So, and lastly, for one of the things we're talking about doing for the 24-hour cooldowns is just making it a daily cooldown. So you can log in whatever time during that day and do your transmute. And it'll just reset like a raid instance kind of thing. Discoveries. Any of the alchemists out in the audience, I'm sure, love this system. So again, the purpose of discoveries was to add that level of differentiation, but what we found is that we included the recipes that you discover are very core to the profession. And because of that, you feel incomplete if you don't get them. And they're not meant, they originally weren't even meant for you to learn all of them. We've tuned that down since, but going forward, it's going to be, the core recipes will be pretty accessible, pretty easily learned, because we still like the discovery system in that it's a lot of fun. It adds some randomness to when you're creating items. But also, we want to sprinkle in some of the super rare recipes as discoveries, and that'll just be a fun way to find those. Like a good example, if we could go back in time, would be like Deviant Delight would be a really good discovery recipe. Not something you need, but you know, it's kind of a cool reward. And then, like I mentioned earlier, vendor recipes. So it's not really a lot of fun to camp a vendor for a limited quantity item. So not only are we not going to really do that anymore, but vendors in general are going to have this big list, like this awesome list of loot, of blue loot and purple loot that just rarely shows up on them. But it's shared across all of them, so whenever you go to a vendor, that you know there could just be some awesome item on there just waiting to be bought, and it'll be random enough that you won't be able to guess. Now, if you find somebody out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to want to check them because no one else has for a while. But in general, it'll just be yet another surprise. So. If you went to Wrath of the Lich King demo, you heard about Inscription. I think if you did anything, you've probably heard about Inscription. That's our new profession that we're going to be doing. Now, this Inscription is not alchemy and it's not enchanting, which is a lot of people that they just kind of assume. They're like, oh, well, so I'm going to make scrolls, and so that's that's what it's not going to be. What it is going to be is, as I'm sure you've also heard, is inscribing spells and abilities with additional power. And that can range from all kinds of different things, like you know, your Shadow Bolt can do more damage, your Backstab can crit more, and we may even end up doing some wackier stuff. I know somebody gave the example of a Fireball with knockback in a previous panel. I would hold your breath on that one, but well, we're going to see what we can get away with. So you can kind of think of it as a single talent point for each of your set of abilities. And then lastly, one of the things we ran into is we're like, well, eventually everyone's going to have their stuff inscribed, so what are you going to do? And so we have this whole other element where you're going to create this new type of item. And unfortunately, we're early enough in the development process, I can't really talk about what it is because it's not quite there, but there's going to be a whole other side of Inscription in addition to the, you know, making your spells more powerful and spells and abilities. So that's what's coming for Wrath of the Lich King. I want to talk about what's coming up in some patches, 2.2 and 2.3. Profession Daily Quests. So we're going to give you guys an opportunity to use your professions every day. We actually already added some for 2.3 for cooking. No, before you think I'm too crazy, we picked cooking because because anybody can get it, and it's relatively easy to skill up. It's not one of those, you know, like if it was fishing, we may not get that many people. I don't know, any 375 fishermen in the audience? What up? Wow, you guys make me feel good. So we're going to be adding these daily quests. for the professions, and we'll be watching the cooking one specifically, kind of so we can custom tailor the design of the remaining professions to really make it really kick it up a notch. As I said before, new crafter only gear. That's more of the best in slot stuff, like some upgrades, and the alchemist only potions. So we've got some jewel crafter only gems. Yeah, just a handful of stuff. And lastly, we're going to smooth out progression. And specifically, that's that 275 to 300 gap that used to be the final push when the max level cap was 60, but it's not anymore. So we don't want that to be such a difficult stepping stone as you're raising a new profession. Oh, so I wanted to show you guys some of the new stuff that's actually coming up, some real examples. With Zulamon, we're going to have a new enchant, Executioner. As you can see, it's a armor penetration proc. Pretty juicy one too. Tom has specifically instructed me to make sure the visual effect is at least as cool as Mongoose. So you can look forward to that too. I mentioned the jewel crafter only gems. Here's 3 examples. So the cool thing about these is even though these are 12-point purple gems, which you can't get anywhere else, they are made from just your normal blue gems. So the falling star there is made from just a star balloon. So the jewel crafters are always going to have some really good gems available to them. And those are available, those are going to be available through the reputation system pretty reasonably too. This is just one I threw in here. I know a lot of people have been watching the Talisite go down into the dumper on the auction house. So we added a new recipe, Resilient Stamp. Get some use out of that. That's in 2.2 actually, and you should save up your 4 research tokens and head to Hala when it comes out. I mentioned the cooking quest earlier, and one of the rewards we're doing with cooking quest is, in addition to giving you some extra, like supplies and some raw fish and meat, every once in a while you get a random recipe in there, and those recipes can't be found anywhere else in the game. They're completely new. We've got a melee hit food, a spell crit food, and we have storm chops. Storm chops, if you remember Dragon Breath Chili, it's very similar where you eat it and you do damage to anybody who's hitting you or whoever you're hitting. In fact, I've got a little screenshot there of that in action. Before I pass this on to Travis to talk about items, 2 things about the storm chops. One of them, you should try them out in the rain, and 2, you should try standing next to an ambient creature when you got it going. So. All right, thank you very much. Give it to Travis.
How you doing? Can you see me through the glare off my head? Alright. Just a few things I wanted to talk about today. Started out just going into Burning Crusade. There were a lot of itemization issues that we wanted to address, but before I get into those, I wanted to give you all a brief idea of just how much loot we made for y'all going into the Burning Crusade. So here's a breakdown. This is the level 1 to 60 WoW that everyone knows and loves. This is the number of green, blue, and epic items that existed in the game. These are just the equipable items, not quest items, etc., etc. And then moving on to the Burning Crusade, this shows just how many more we made. So in our 10 level span, we more than doubled the number of purple items in the game and so on and so forth. So there's plenty of new toys out there for everybody, and we always keep trying to add more. So entering the Burning Crusade, there were a number of itemization problems. In particular, one that I'm sure many of you have experienced in the past, which was a lot of people felt that if they wanted to enjoy the PvP aspect of our game, well, they had to go raid, whether or not they liked it, or you were pretty much going to get killed by the guy with his ash candy and Barathi Basin. So we decided, okay, we want to separate these two aspects of the game. We don't want PvPers to feel like they need to go raid in order to enjoy the game. And vice versa, we don't want you feeling like, wow,